Oblivion Remastered has had over 4 million players play the game on different platforms. Now, to this, it may be somewhat interesting as to the conversation. So it's one of the first times we saw Xbox actually allude to this kind of, a celebratory benchmark of some kind. It was with Starfield, where they said, hey, we've had 11 million players come ahead and play our Starfield game, yada, yada. It was very interesting at the end of the day. But there's a very interesting question as to what this even means for Xbox. And I think one way that you can come about making some sense of it is actually getting a calculator out. I say this for a specific set of reasons, which I'll show you all in this video pretty soon. The very first thing we want to look at is, what do you think Xbox is spending in acquiring or putting all these games on its platform? The very first answer that we can get our hands on is from an interview from back in 2024. I made it sound like it was going to be a long time ago. No, it was just last year. In January, William D'Angelo wrote briefly about a Windows Central interview that was done with Phil Spencer, where apparently he revealed that Xbox spends over $1 billion a year on third-party content for Xbox Game Pass, and the service itself is profitable. Now, this is a very interesting statement because he can be sued if he's making this stuff up. And so those who may have a problem with it, I think you might want to basically either find ways to verify and possibly take it to court. But this is a fiscal statement, and shareholders should not be misled. So I can say with that caution in mind that Phil Spencer is actually being as vague as he can, but as accurate as he can, because he said over 1 billion. So it could be 1.2 or it could be $1.8 billion. So we're going to be, fair and say, let's just take it to $1.8 billion, because I think that's probably the way that is going to need to go so that we can make sense of it. So if Game Pass is spending $1.8 billion on its third-party content, that's close to $2 billion a year, and I'm being super generous. Like I said, he just said over $1 billion. He just said over $1 billion. I don't think he spends up to $2 billion a year. That will be insane, because they could invest that money in their own third-party studios. But let's just give it a hypothetical of 1.8 and let's be done with it. That way we can cover all the third-party games that are on Game Pass. As for the first-party games, we can now go ahead and start maybe guessing different amounts in terms of budgets, right? Let's just say Avowed. What would you think Avowed would have cost them to make? If we want to go on the high side, I say probably 80 million in the way this game was made, perhaps. So $80 million. Then we look at a game like South of Midnight. I don't know, another $60 million game. And if I'm wrong on these numbers, because these are hypotheticals, remember, I've already given y'all, let's say another, I don't know, 600 million in my Game Pass third-party estimate. That should cover for the, errors that we may make here. So we're at almost $2 billion with these two games already on tap. Doom Dark Ages, what are we going to do here? Let's just give Doom Dark Ages a flat $200 million in game development for that fiscal, I'll say for that release window in terms of games coming out. We're at $2.14 billion. The Tony Hawk game is under Activision's budget, but why not? They're on Game Pass, so let's go ahead and give it a, I don't know, what do you guys want to say? $90 million development budget? And again, if we've made a mistake, please note that we've already put a ton of money into the third party, whatever, so that can cover for this. So we're at $2.2 billion. We have the third party games and we have the first party games. Ninja Gaiden is Koei Tecmo. Even though they're partnering with in the publishing with Xbox, we can still throw that, whatever fee that went into the whole $1.8 billion pool for the year 2025. Hey, by the way, like I said, I am hypothesizing. Don't go out there and start taking these numbers and smacking yourself in the face. It's like an experiment that they say kids don't try this at home, if you get what I mean. Now, put all this together and say, okay, Xbox is going to spend, I don't know about any other first-party games coming out. You know what? If there's another first-party game coming out that I cannot get in this video, let me go ahead and give that first-party game $100 million. Okay? So $2.33 billion is what's spent to put content on Game Pass every year. Okay? Is that fine? Satisfied? All right. It's a round number. Now, when we think about the subscription fees being paid by others who actually do come into the Game Pass ecosystem, then we can see that there's some kind of an interesting thing going on. Sarah Bond mentioned in 2020 during that developer update or Xbox update that they had about 34 million Game Pass subscribers, which consisted of core and the ultimate tiers. Recently as well, in the financial statements that Xbox put out there, they also found that Game Pass on PC had grown. So PC Game Pass growth by 30% in that particular quarter that they were reporting. So Microsoft CEO says PC Game Pass grew by 30%. Very interesting. I don't know what that would translate to. I'm not going to sit here and try to, make stuff up, but what if PC Game Pass users are probably 1 million? Is that too much? So the 30% of 1 million will be about 300,000. So this number would be, instead of 34 million in a conservative way, of which I've basically reduced the possibility of these Xbox Game Pass subscribers going out the wazoo, we're looking at 34 million Game Pass subscribers. Okay? This is where we are. There are rumors that are saying that this number has gone to 40 million and is going to 50 million. I'm not there yet. I want to go with the numbers that I can put my hands on and overestimate on the side of expense and underestimate on the side of income so that I can see what's going on here. If these folk are paying an average of $12, because Ultimate is 20, Core is, I don't remember how much, and then PC is about 12, let's go ahead and give it an average in some kind of a, middle ground number of about $12, throw 50 cents in there. And we multiply that. That is $428 million a month. For the year, multiply that by 12, Game Pass is hovering around $5.1 billion. That is the most conservative expense that I can put out there in terms of acquisition of content versus income from the subscriptions. So if Game Pass is approaching the $5 billion mark by the end of this year and is spending around $2 billion in content, then I can say that there seems to be significant margin here. Now, there are other costs associated with Game Pass, but these costs have always been costs that are there, just like you have a platform that allows for you to sell games and, basically host games and servers and all the above. Those costs have always been there, but you already see that there is significant margin here. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract from this number $2.3 billion. And it should be very interesting what we see. So this is 233 million, $2.3 billion. And we have a margin of about almost $3 billion to carry on other expenses and such. I walked through all of this just to basically say that when these guys report that they have so-called million players played the game, you need to look underneath the hood to kind of get a sense of what's going on here with the Xbox business model. Because as people keep saying, oh, I bought the game to support the devs, one thing you're not paying attention to is those of us that subscribe are also supporting the devs. I mean, look at this freaking behemoth of a number in terms of the margin that's left after I gave all of these games exorbitant amounts of money. Like I literally said, let's just throw almost $2 billion at third-party games, which they're not spending that. From what Phil Spencer said, it is unlikely that he would have said that. He would have said almost $2 billion. I mean, if he didn't say that, that's crazy. And even if he didn't say that, we kind of estimated that. We threw in some extra money for some of these games, and then I tossed in an extra $100 million just because, and I still came out with $2.8 billion in margin without other operating costs. So when they say 4 million people have played these games, you got to look and see how many more of those people actually did subscribe to Game Pass and how that actually affects their ecosystem. I saw a comment from somebody the other day. They said, bro, the moment they announced this Oblivion, I went in there, I picked my Xbox back up and turned it on, and I subscribed to Game Pass. Interesting. It's an easy, direct way to play that game without even thinking about the $12 that you've spent. And a lot of people have been talking about Game Pass subscriptions flatlining. Oh, it's flatlined. Oh, it flatlined. But now Game Pass seemingly had been making enough money to be confident enough in putting more content on there. And as more and more content continues to go on there, it's going to be interesting. Now, you know what we didn't even talk about? We didn't even talk about the sales on PlayStation and Steam. Can you imagine what happens when you actually go ahead and consider that those games also sold copies on PlayStation, Steam, Battle.net, and platforms, maybe in some cases Nintendo, that people didn't even consider? This company is insane. I don't know how they did it, but they found a way to basically win without actually winning in the eyes of those people who have basically categorized them as losers. Oh, very interesting. Thanks for watching the video. Talk to me in the comment section. Peace out.